This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. You heard about the $148 million verdict in favor of justice and, more importantly, plaintiffs Shaye Moss and Ruby Freeman against now judgment debtor Rudy Giuliani. Now let's talk about what that means the night of the verdict going forward for people like Donald Trump, who faces his own defamation case, second defamation case brought by the same plaintiff that starts in a federal court in New York in just a month's time. So I have a posit for you. I have a thought experiment. Has the market for the cost of a jury verdict for defamation gone up exponentially? $5 million in May is what a jury in New York awarded E. Jean Carroll, but now is the new market rate $148 million, sort of like the baseball market, right? Our top pitchers and outfielders going for twice as much as they were just 6 months ago. I'll give you my answer to that. And the second is, as we heard from one of the plaintiffs, they're not done. There are other people that need to be brought to justice that defame them terribly. And what are we going to do about it? And so the question that I ask and answer on this hot take is, are there other people that can be sued by Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss, right? Because their job is not done and justice is still vigilant. I'll address that as well. Let's start with the first one. What does this mean for Donald Trump? I mean, Rudy Giuliani has tried every way he can to emulate, but he's a poor carbon copy of Donald Trump. He's attacked Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss just like Donald Trump during the trial itself, which the jury found out about, and I'm sure went into their $75 million punitive damage award. He denied that he was guilty, even though he'd already been adjudged that way. He defamed them again and said he had evidence to prove that they had committed voter fraud as election workers when they'd already been cleared by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Georgia Secretary of State, and eyeballs, just videos of them clear that they did nothing wrong in doing the count at all. And so you have him continuing to defame them the way Donald Trump continued to defame E. Jean Carroll, including the day after a jury in New York adjudged that he was a sexual rapist, abuser, and had defamed her and awarded $5.5 million. So that's one. They have a case against Rudy Giuliani for right during the trial. New, fresh versions of defamation can be sued upon. But, how much more how much more juice can you squeeze out of this lemon? They've got the $148 million judgment against Rudy Giuliani. Now, what does it mean for others? Anybody else who within the last year, and I'll tell you why it's the last year, have defamed Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss, they could be sued as well. Now, Georgia, where they're from, has a 1-year statute of limitations, a meaning under which is, I'm going to give you a little lesson here, legal AF breakout class on statutes of limitations. Limitations are apply in some way, shape, or form in civil court, meaning non-criminal court, to every cause of action. Everything that you can sue another person for has a related statute of limitations telling that plaintiff you have to sue or you have waived your rights within a certain period of time. And it depends. There are statutes in every state, because it's different in every state, and it tells you exactly how many years for each of these types of breach of contract claims, or what we call torts, which are injuries of a certain type that are not contracts. Could be business torts, could be other types of torts, and all of that, products liability, breach of contract, partnership dispute, defamation, intentional infliction, everything else all have their unique statute of limitations. A lot of states, breach of contract has to be brought between 5 and 6 years after the person knew or should have known about the breach. Fraud within 3 years in a lot of states, sometimes up to 4 years with an extension of time, if you will, if it took a while to learn about the fraud. Right? Negligence, sometimes a year or 2 years. Medical malpractice, sometimes a year. Depends how strong the medical lobby group is in your particular state. And defamation, it's not that they want to stop you from bringing your case. You just have to bring it within a year, generally, in Georgia at least, of the defamatory acts, which means it has to be within the last year. All the stuff that Donald Trump originally did A lot of it falls outside the 1 year, and therefore they wouldn't be able to sue. But I'm telling you right now, you can do it yourself. Go scrub and scrape the internet and go look for a statement made by Donald Trump within the last year in which he defamed Ruby Freeman and or Shaye Moss, and there's your new case against Donald Trump and everybody else. I mean, I haven't really done my own research on this yet, but I mean, if besides Rudy Giuliani, if Sidney Powell did, if Jenna Ellis did, if any of the lawyers did for Donald Trump are now disgraced, convicted lawyers for Donald Trump, they can also be sued. And anybody in the inner circle around Donald Trump, we just got to get over this 1 year hurdle, and then they can go after other people. I'll give you 2 examples right here. Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss are still being attacked in Georgia by co-conspirators, indicted defendants in Georgia, right? We've got QT, who used to be the stylist for Kanye West, and Willie Floyd, who used to be the head of Black Voices for Trump. They're bashing Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss in the last month, in the last week and a half. So you could go after them. I don't know how much they have, but I'm sure what was on the mind of Ruby Freeman in her press conference when she said, our job is not done, there are other people that we're going after. I'm sure Willie Floyd and QT came to mind. And anybody else that's had the temerity to attack these poor women are going to be brought to justice, if not criminally, then in the civil context. Because Ruby Freeman is at the heart of the Georgia election interference RICO conspiracy case against Donald Trump and 14 others. There's one whole section of the indictment that's related to Ruby Freeman. Jack Smith is going to use the Donald Trump attacks on Ruby Freeman against him as part of proving the case, the indictment in the District of Columbia criminal case against Donald Trump. So we are talking about now people who will one day be a bronze statue out in front of some courthouse or other area because of the historic and important work they've done to bring justice to this issue and to themselves. That's how important this is. Sometimes we forget because we talk about it in real time and a high velocity and social media that history books and history chapters are being written by people not named Michael Popok or even Legal AF, but by Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss. And their work is not done. And so we'll continue to follow the other people that will get ensnared by their own defamatory intentional infliction of emotional distress on Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss and others. Now, I want to end the hot take on what does this mean for Donald Trump? I started at the top by saying, has the market for juries awarding major damages and punitive damages now shifted because of what we just seen in the District of Columbia? Yes, the juries are not related. Yes, they're in different states, although on the Eastern Seaboard and in also liberal places. But you'd have to be living under a rock by the time that jury gets picked in a month's time against Donald Trump in his defamation case for them not to know about the $148 million. And and Rudy Giuliani's acting out and bad behavior that got him there. And so we know Donald Trump can't help himself, despite being gagged 3 times by different courts. He'll act out. He'll be abusive. He'll abuse E. Jean Carroll either inside the courtroom, outside the courtroom, on social media, or in rallies. And that's only going to tighten the trap around him, the bear trap around him. It just gets tighter and tighter by his own making. And the jury's going to know about it, just like the Rudy Giuliani jury knew about his bad behavior on the courthouse steps and all those stupid press conferences, even though he never took the stand inside the courtroom. And so what will a jury do? Isn't this going to pump up the number, right? Turbocharge the number, put kerosene on the flames. The thing that they didn't, the last jury to hear the E. Jean Carroll case in May that returned the $5.5 million verdict, they only awarded a couple of million for punitive damages. And we thought that was really low. If I'm E. Jean Carroll's lawyers now, knowing about this as their template, they're going to swing for the fences. They're going to put up a number in opening about sending the message to Donald Trump that the $5 million message didn't send and wasn't received. And they're going to ask for multiples of that. If those lawyers, and we know those lawyers here on the MeidasTouch Network, we know Robbie Kaplan. She's been on the show in an interview. If Robbie Kaplan's firm, I don't even need to say this because she's such a great lawyer. If Robbie Kaplan's firm doesn't put a number on the board for this next jury against Donald Trump, that is somewhere the same as what they just did for Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss, $60, $80, $90 million plus punitive damages, then I don't know what we're doing. But she will, because now the market's been set. Not to make an inappropriate sports metaphor. Here we come. Here's the warning. Where's my production team? Inappropriate sports metaphor coming. But, we just had Ohtani, the baseball player, who blew through all the records in his record deal, right? They didn't just give him $10 million more than the other best player in baseball. They gave him $30 million a year more. And so that's the new market. So what I posit here on this hot take is the market for defamation damages against MAGA leaders like Trump and Giuliani has just increased by about 50-fold. And we're going to see what this jury does next month. We'll follow it right here. So stay with us. Stay with this audience. Help us with this movement we call Legal AF on the MeidasTouch Network. First thing you do, free subscribe and help them get to 2 million free subscribers. Then watch our show. We have a full podcast curated for you at the intersection of, wait for it, law, politics, and justice on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on podcast platforms for audio wherever you can get them. If you like what I'm doing here, thumbs up and a comment helps with the ratings, keeps me on the air. And until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Thanks so much for watching. We're only a few subscribers short of 2 million subs. Please subscribe right now to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for free and help us grow this unapologetically pro-democracy network.